Good morning, welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View. Running late today because there's builders outside making a hell of a noise. Damn pesky builders. Anyway, Martin O'Neill has said that a certain player will be like a new player coming back for the last remainder of the season, the last 7 games of the season. He's talking about Arne Engels. Do you think that Arne Engels will make all the difference to Celtic for the last in the run-in? Tell me what your thoughts are on that. Do you think Arne Engels will make the difference in midfield? It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think that a lot of people think that Arne Engels, all he brings to the team is just what he does for his corner kicks, as the builders are now cutting tiles by the sound of it. I think that Arne Engels coming back will be great for the midfield, but will he make a big impact? I think the damage has been done this season already, hasn't it? But we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be his mindset as well, because a lot of people are saying it's interesting that Arne Engels did get injured right after the fact that he was not sold by Celtic for 20 million. Should Celtic have taken that money? Now, Kasper Schmeichel obviously took to social media yesterday, and Kasper Schmeichel has had the first of his operation. Writing on Instagram, the first shoulder operation went well. Full focus is on recovering and preparing for the next one. Thank you for all the messages. I read some of the messages on social media, and some of them weren't too kind. Should we even have went for Kasper Schmeichel? Let's face it, when he was leaving Anderlecht under freedom of contract, they didn't want to keep him. They didn't give him an extra, year's contract. Celtic did take him on with the 1 year, thinking that he could get the 2 years. Unfortunately for him, he's not managed to see out the 2 years. For some people, Kasper Schmeichel should never have seen out this season. He cost us so many points. Faced great criticism from fans, including myself, and rightly so, because when you're not performing as a goalkeeper, you're right there in the firing line. You can make a couple of mistakes as an outfield player, and you can get over them. But the continual mistakes from Kasper diving to his left-hand side was always a big issue. If we could see it, why didn't the staff see it? And I think that's one of the questions that Celtic fans are really bugbeared about. Never mind the fact that Kasper went on American television and told the world that he was no longer going to be able to play football before he told Martin O'Neill. It has been a very, very interesting season. Anyway, Robbie Keane. Robbie Keane as Celtic manager. Robbie Keane as Celtic manager. He's been spoken about quite a lot recently, and it looks like if it does come down to him and Jens, who would you want as Celtic manager? You can think about all the positives that come from Robbie Keane. Let's see if they don't stop that drilling this morning. I swear to God. Robbie Keane, he obviously played for Celtic slightly, but he came at the end of his career, a bit like Kasper Schmeichel and stuff. Does that make him great management material for Celtic? He obviously took his club to the last 16 of the Europa, and will Celtic use that as a way of getting him to Celtic, to try and get Celtic? I mean, Celtic, we need to qualify for Europe more than anything. I'm not sure if Robbie Keane is the man for Celtic, because can he get the academy going? Can he stay long enough? Will he stay long enough at Celtic? Will he see Celtic as a 4-year deal? Will he stay for 4 years, or will he use And my issue with the likes of Robbie Keane coming into Celtic, I think that he would just use Celtic as a platform to get into the English Premiership. Although he doesn't need to use Celtic because of what he's achieved in Europe with his team this season. Do you know, any plus points that you could say for Robbie Keane coming to Celtic would be he's played for Celtic, he understands what it means for Celtic to win every game. Do you know, he could drive the culture again. Is it a case of he's just another Irishman coming in and it's a Dermot Desmond signing? I mean, if he does come to Celtic, it will be purely down to Dermot Desmond pulling the strings, isn't it? Now, the fact that he's pulling the string, would he stay long enough and would he turn around the whole club? I think that's what we're needing now. We're needing a leader. We're needing someone to come in the summer and do what Brendan Rodgers did his first time round. You know, revamp the academy so that there's a pathway. There's a real pathway because there's a lot of young players that have left. Their parents are in the media saying that the real reason we left Celtic is there is no pathway into the first team. Well, you tell that to young Colby Donovan and Dane Murray. Joseph Davidson says that's what Celtic are, a stepping stone club. Is that down to the power brokers that at Celtic then not convincing managers to see out the journey? I mean, we talk about players, we talk about younger players going on a football education and a journey. We know that we bring in players and they just use Celtic as a stepping stone. I mean, for Martin O'Neill to talk about Arne Engels, who's only been at the club a couple of seasons, but Arne Engels is will he have spat the dummy out because he never got his big move for the 20 million? That says to me that we know, well, it doesn't say to me because we know the fact that many players have said it. Kuhn said it when he left Celtic. I think Kuhn was the first honest player to leave Celtic and say, look, when I joined Celtic, they told me it would be an 18-month, 2-year thing and then they would sell me on. So we're actively telling players that, no, just come to Celtic. You only need to stay here a year and a half, 2 years, do fantastically well, and we'll sell you to a bigger club. And, you know, you get your move a little bit higher up the... That's not what Celtic fans want to hear, though, is it? I want a manager to come... And, you know, it's maybe romanticising about the way that we see ourselves as a football club. You know, we think that we're a big football club. The boards tell us that we're world class at this and world class at that. Well, if we're world class, why aren't we acting like a world class football team? Why aren't we buying in players? And if they've got 5-year contracts, keep them here for 3 or 4 years. Not the likes of Dies and Maida and stuff. Oh, yeah, the likes of Dies and Maida and that, they've been here for 4 years. But there's been other players that have come in that could have kept the squad at a high level, but instead Celtic want to go and sell the players without having a contingency plan or a player in-house. We can go back to Ange Postecoglou was the last manager who openly said the reason I buy players in the winter window is not for that season. It's so that they've got the 6 months bedding in time and then they're fine and they're raring to go in the summer season. You know, the get the full pre-season in them and then they have a fantastic year right off the first 6 months when you come to Celtic. Because, you know, as much as we love Ange Postecoglou, I think he was the last man to come into Celtic and be really honest with the fans. Because there's one thing for sure, Martin O'Neill has he seems to be just appeasing the media, doesn't it? He just seems to be appeasing the media on a weekly basis, which is kind of getting pissing the fans off. And be really honest with the fans, because there's one thing for sure. So anyway, so Robbie Keane, yes or no to Robbie Keane as Celtic manager? Former player knows the expectations, European credibility, things that the Motherwell manager doesn't really have. Jens, high press, high intensity, builds from the back. That's sometimes a little bit risky. Plays fantastic one-touch football. You could see why they were interested in him. Celtic have got a big call to make, and I hope that they make it soon. Anyway, Robbie Keane. I'm not too sure if I'm keen on Robbie Keane. Kasper Schmeichel has left the club. Alistair Johnson, he looks as if he's going to play some minutes for his international team, even after Martin O'Neill said, I would rather he stayed here to recuperate fully. He's not up to speed yet, but he has went away with his national team, and Martin O'Neill said, look, it's an interesting one, because Martin O'Neill said at the interview, the last interview, said, look, I would rather he stayed here, but don't be surprised if he ends up somewhere else next week. Seems to be an awful lot of our players going against what Martin O'Neill's wishes. And our players now looking at the facts that because Martin O'Neill keeps on saying he's not going to be here next year, are the players just going, I'm going to go away with the international team. You're not going to be my manager next season, mate. I appreciate what you're doing just now, and is there a bit of that going on with Celtic? And that's always an issue when you bring in a temporary manager. And that's all that Martin O'Neill is. He's a temporary manager. He's just a sticking plaster that has done fantastically well up until now. But like he did in 2003, could end up winning absolutely nada. McKenna's an interesting one. He's the guy that I wanted in before Wilfred Nancy obviously came into the club. But could we take him away from a potential move to the English Premiership? That's the big one. That's an interesting one from user. I don't understand why they open up all these shops making a mint on merch and then sit tight with spending on a few players. I think it seems to be now looking at what's happened during the season. A lot of people were saying last summer the board aren't going to spend money because Brendan Rodgers isn't going to be here next year. And you've got to say that maybe those people were actually right last summer. Were the club holding back because Brendan Rodgers wasn't going to be here? Did the board the board have come in and say, look, we never expected Brendan Rodgers not to see out the season. When they brought in Wilfred Nancy, which was the wrong idea, I wonder how much money they were going to actually give Wilfred Nancy, because obviously he brought in Julian Araujo. Would Wilfred Nancy have got serious money to spend on players to get us ready for the summer? Because as it stands now, going into the summer, we're in a worse position than we were even at the winter transfer window. And it's a case of the club need to do something. But yeah, it's a fair comment. But the thing is they're not even making as much money as they have in previous seasons on merchandise because of the not another penny campaign. Taylor says, I feel sorry for Martin O'Neill walking into a shite show. Jose Mourinho for manager. Oh, the Bodo guy has made it clear he's staying in Norway. I think that, I don't think that it would be... Are we really going to go for him after all these years? I think he's mucked Celtic about enough over the years, even with selling players to us. And I know it's not his decision, but well, it is. Ultimately, if a manager doesn't want to sell his player, he tells the club, no, you're not selling the player. So I don't think that the Bodo Glimt manager, I think we need to look beyond him now. Celtic couldn't afford Kieran McKenna. He won't leave Ipswich, which have a chance of promotion. What if they don't get the promotion? What manager of any substance would want to work with the shambles of a board? Yeah, well, Baz, respect comes to me, none for Martin O'Neill. Seems to be what's going on with the players, doing what they sell them. No discipline, respect. And it's maybe not a case of no discipline and respect, but if there's been stuff going on in the background, if there'll be a lot of stuff that we will never get to find out about. Are the board Masons? I don't think so. It'll be Askou and John Collins. I've got a funny feeling that might still happen, and if it is, we're in for Ronnie Dyler years Mark II, because John Collins was Ronnie Dyler's number 2, and we're going through another couple of years of mediocre stuff. And I know that we still won the league under Ronnie Dyler, but the SPFL were a lot poorer then. The teams, there wasn't as many teams. Well, there was, because St Johnstone won a couple of trophies at that time, didn't they? So, whoever the next manager, you hope comes in and stands his own ground and makes his own decisions, doesn't take the bullshit of the board. That's my worry with Robbie Keane coming to Celtic. Robbie Keane will come to Celtic, and it's the whole Irish connection. Is it time that we stepped away from that as a club? But any time that we have tried to do it, on paper, I mean, Ronnie Dyler had won things at his previous club. Ronnie Dyler's went on to have a fantastic career after Celtic, management-wise. He's but the whole Joseph Davidson says, why John Collins? Because they have the same agent. Him and the Motherwell manager have the same agent, and they were both pictured sitting together watching a Celtic game. That is the only reason, the connection. Why would he be? How does he know the Motherwell manager? And why was he sitting right next to him at a Celtic game? Celtic board lacks ambition. That's why. Yeah, this is true. To be honest, we need a full clear out. Player signed by Rodgers or plays his football. Signings are terrible. Players have turned lazy. Divas because of him, and decide when they play. I think there's a lot more going on in the background at Celtic. Like I say, Celtic will try to keep as much in-house. Don McKay wanted to change the club, and the board got rid of him. Why? Because he saw Celtic as a worldwide brand, and he had some fanciful ideas about how to spend the money. And yeah, he was chased out. He was the last honest man to come and sit in the boardroom at Celtic Park, and he wasn't Lowell minded. He wasn't part of the clan, was he? We should have known that the worst thing that happened during that period was for Ange Postecoglou to be so successful, because I think that the fans would have turned on the board a lot quicker had Ange not been as successful as he was, because of the Don McKay situation. It's one of the strangest decisions ever. The way that man spoke about football, and I know that he came from a rugby background, but the business side of it, he turned Scottish rugby around and made it vastly profitable and attract big spenders in the advertising side of things. From a business point of view, I think he was over ambitious to what this board really. Dermot Desmond comes down to it. I think that he was appointed. I don't know what in part Dermot Desmond had within any interview. I don't know if he has any part, and he obviously does, because he got rid of him. And it's a shame, because I think that when you think back to the interview, Don McKay and Ange Postecoglou sitting and talking about their ambition for the club going forward, and the dream that they had about Celtic, and starting to concentrate on Europe as the place that we want to start achieving. That's what Celtic fans had been wanting and crying out for years. And instead we get Celtic after the first year, and I mean, he only lasted about 3 months, didn't he? And reverting back into the same old Celtic, the way that the board run us. But anyway, as long as Dermot is in charge, we won't progress. You see that in Europe. Maybe that's the reason that he wants to bring in Robbie Keane, because he thinks that Robbie Keane can work within the parameters that are set by Dermot Desmond. Do you know the way that the business model is run? And will he be a yes man? I watched Motherwell against Sevco, played them off the park. I think it's a bit harsh comparing them to Ronnie Dyler. I'm not comparing him to Ronnie Dyler as a manager. I'm talking about the level of expectation that Celtic will then have. You know, when they brought in Ronnie Dyler, they didn't spend big money. Do you know, the signings, it was a downsizing of the football department. That's what I mean by the comparison to Ronnie Dyler. It'll be Ronnie years similar. Do you know, it won't be, I don't think that there'll be many 10 million pound players bought going forward. And especially if we don't get into the Champions League, and if we don't even get into Europa, if we finish third and end up in the Conference League, you wait and see Celtic downsizing big style, to keep the profitability of the club. Keep the profitability rather than going, do you know what? This is a competition that we might actually be able to go far in and win. I know it's a Conference League and it means absolutely nada. And by the way, if we do end up in the Conference League rather than Europa, if you think that atmosphere at Europa nights are bad, you will see half-empty stadiums for conference stuff. Half-empty stadiums for conference stuff. Any other company of directors would have been sacked for gross misconduct. No plan, absolutely nothing, says Michael. The board would say otherwise. They will say that they do have a plan. And players to stay: captain, goalkeeper, James Forrest as backup. The rest can go, says Stuart. By goalkeeper, I hope that you mean Sinisalo, not Kasper Schmeichel. I think we'll keep both goalkeepers. I mean, you're going to keep Ross Dohan as backup. But yeah. The minute that we get in front of Rangers trophies, we're effing it up royally. Yeah. Any positives from this season? Yes, I would say the emergence of Colby Donovan on an ongoing basis. You know, bringing a youngster from the academy, from the B team, and cementing him as a first team player. I would say that that's been a fantastic positive for this season. I would even say Dane Murray stepping up and participating. He might not be the level that you want, but from a youngster's perspective and football journey and bringing youngsters in from the academy, that has to be seen as a positive. They might not be the standard that Kieran Tierney was when they came through, etc., but you have to take those little bits as a positive. Any other positives? Callum Osmond, the signing of Callum Osmond. Unfortunate that we've seen him injured, but when he started to get some game time, he looks a promising prospect. Other than that, I wouldn't say that there's been, with 7 games to go at this point, I wouldn't say that there's been many more positives. You have to try and take some little sections of positivity from a negative situation, which this season ultimately has been. To the fact that we've lost Brendan Rodgers as manager, the style of football has been horrendous. The fact that we brought in Welshman Nancy, you could say one positive was bringing in Julian Araujo, who absolutely loves the club, but looks like he's maybe falling out with Martin O'Neill. I think Donovan is injured. He pulled out the Scotland squad today, says Michael. The plan is to hoard money. Sinisalo and Donovan. Yeah, there's another one that. But we knew that is Sinisalo a positive, because we saw what he could do last season. the run in the last season. I suppose the positive is that, yes, Sinisalo's been a big positive because we finally have a younger goalkeeper that looks as if he could go on and progress. So yeah, you would say that those players are all the positives, They thought they'd done good when they brought in Oxlade. Yeah. They thought it would keep us quiet. And what has the guy done? Absolutely nada. Actually okay with attending no more games. Ooh. Going old school and on the radio to listen. Won't even watch them next season, says Green Smoke. There we go. The World Cup Finals is on the 19th of July. Will we have a manager in by then? Well, I hope so, because the players will be back in training on the 1st of July. It's usually around the 1st to the 4th of July that the players start coming back from pre-season into pre-season. So, and it'll be even worse if we have to play earlier games in Europe. So watch. I've been waiting on us coming for Scott. Dermot Desmond will always use really good diehard Celtic fans. Robbie Keane will need to toe the line and work a miracle on a budget. It's going to be a tough sell. Our advantage has gone. Positives from this season, we realised incompetence in the entire board and at least 12 of the current squad, but I think it's too late to fix. We will have a long trek to get back on top. DD's revenge. And there's no way that this board will spend to be ready for next year's Europe. Sinisalo, a positive, jumped up to the position when Schmeichel was out. I think that, yeah, I would take the players that I mentioned, I would take them as positives this season. Going forward, you've got to say who in the current squad. You could say that Kieran Tierney's been a positive because he's not been out injured and he's played more. I think that Kieran Tierney's played more football than a lot of Celtic fans thought he would play. A lot of Celtic fans were very negative about Kieran Tierney and he's hardly played any football for the last, since he left Celtic, really. And I think that the fact that Kieran's still here and, not crocked, not chocolate legs, whether he's had the same effect that he had the first time around. But then again, it's all about the standard of players. The standard of the players that Kieran Tierney played with at Celtic when he came through as a youngster was far superior to the players that Kieran Tierney. I mean, he must have came back and he must be in training going, I fucking miss Scott Brown. Jesus. I misses so many players. And that's what, and maybe Kieran's feeling, I've made the wrong decision. This squad's terrible. Brendan Rodgers sold me down the river on this one. Sinisalo definitely a positive. If you want to keep filling up the boards, bonus. Well, they're probably damaging the club. That's on use. 3 or 4th this season. Who's to say that it won't be the same next season? Well, if that is the case, we are well and truly in 1990s era. Who says that history doesn't repeat itself? Because if Celtic were to finish 3rd this season and then finish 3rd or 4th the following season, that takes us way back to the mid and early 1990s scenario. And a lot of people don't like, oh, here you go again, talking about the 1990s. Well, just saying. We should be hunting a manager and players now, not waiting to the end of the season. Yeah, that's what good clubs do. But our Celtic a good club. Yang has been a positive. Most people has Yang been a positive, or I mean, he's only scored 6 goals. I know that he's had good spells, but he's still not up there with the likes of where Jota was his first time round. Is that how low our expectations have came to? It's no disrespect to Yang. You know, I think I think it's unbelievable that he's managed to turn his Celtic career around. But like what Liam Scales did, you never know. Yang might go, do you know what? I like staying at Celtic now. I don't want to go this summer. You know, I want to try and progress as a player. He might do what Liam Scales did, and he might still be here in about 3 years' time. And we're all doing the Yang dance. Yang is on the fence, too hot and cold for me. Yeah, that's what I think. No point in being profitable if we don't take the odd risk. Oh, this board are very risk of. Well, they would say that they took a risk with Wilfred Nancy and it didn't work. Probably positive that we didn't go into the Champions League with that squad. Yeah, that is a massive positive, isn't it? Because we would have got our complete. We would have got. Yeah, it's not even worth thinking about. But you never know. You know, the things might have been completely different. Brendan Rodgers might. It's all hearsay, isn't it? Complete hearsay. Wee Fergus must be thinking, am I being asked to get over there again? Oh, Jesus. Chitty chitty bang yang. Do you think that Jens will probably be in the best position to take over? He knows our weaknesses. He knows what needs to fix. But is he a big enough pool for players to come to Celtic? Don't know what type of player could he attract. Ange Postecoglou came in and attracted Japanese players because he had played in that league and he was successful, you know, and people knew him from Australia, Japan, the Australian national team. He had the respect of the players, you know, he had all this already. He had won things, he had a successful track record. You could say that Jen's coming from Motherwell. Are we just going to attract Motherwell standard players? Is that progression? It's an interesting one. Yang is just two extremes, either very good or very horrendous. Yes, and that's the downside of Yang. It's going to take at least 3 or 4 years for us to dominate again under this regime. I think that the dominance of Scottish football by any one team, I think that era may be coming to an end, especially if Hearts win the league. Because if Hearts win the league and the money they get from that, and then if they manage to get into Europe and get some money coming in from there, they're a very well run club that are sitting with. We all know that they're sitting with 10 million in the bank already. Their bank balance will only increase. We all know that the club across the city made a loss last year again. How can you keep on turning these losses into profits? I don't know. Celtic should be a big enough pool. But if you're not in the Champions League, if you're not in Europa, why on earth would you want to go and play at Celtic? You know, we sell Celtic as a club for players. Oh, we're in the Champions League. Come and play. You'll get in the Champions League. You'll get seen in the Champions League. Puts your profile up. Coming to Scotland, playing in, God forbid, if we're playing in the Conference League in Europe, that's no big pool, is it? Playing in Scottish football, going away to Dundee, going away to Dundee United, you know, places like that. Steve is in Playa Flamenca. Just now, had to get away after Sunday. Good old Playa Flamenca. Fantastic little place. You're going into Paddy's Point. Get yourself up to the Hoops Bar in Guardamar as well. Or Rosie Maguire's. Rosie Maguire's is seemingly taken over as the Celtic pub to go to, isn't it? The Celtic pub. Rather than Paddy's Point. Yang, Tierney, Engels, a few others would make it with better players around them. Can we keep Arnie Engels next year? That's the big one. Pat Maguire, exactly. And walking down the street of the road is. If the Huns win, they get automatically into the Champions League and 40 million. Let's just hope that that doesn't happen. We're not good enough for the Conference League, says Chris. He's a bit of a draw specialist. Let's see if he can turn them into wins next season. Money does not get you any trophies. Look at all the Champions League English teams spending millions. Yeah. No, you can't. You can buy success in Scotland, they say, but if you were Arnie, would you stay? If I was Arnie, would I stay now? Or would I be? No, no. No, I think Arnie was another player that's been told that he was coming to Scotland for a 2-year period, and then he would be sold. Unfortunately, I would probably still get pumped 5-1 away in the conference. This is probably since I was in Paris Point yesterday. Cracking flag up there with Bertie on it. Yeah, got a picture of it. Yeah, it's a cracking pub. Cracking boozer. But you need to go down to Rosie Maguire's down at Cabo Roy. That's the place. They've got a Celtic event on this summer, a 3-day event, which they're trying to sell tickets for. Everything that's happened points to the boards bringing in a manager that wants to play a certain way in the middle of the season was wrong. Wrong. They must have had obviously an interview with Wilfred Nancy. And you know, whilst when you go for a job interview, you're going to talk your best talk. You're going to bum yourself up. You know what I mean? Everyone does, but the whole Wilfred Nancy was too stubborn to listen. You know, he didn't realise that, you know, in other leagues it's okay to lose a couple of games while you go through a process. It's the 3-day event to find a new manager. It would probably be better. Anybody want a job? Oh man, honestly. Find the new manager. A Celtic boozer in Spain. Damn. Well, the thing is, and don't laugh about it, because the players that are coming over have been over before at that pub to play in a golf tournament. And what if Dermot Desmond, fucking a golf? Did you say golf? I'll come over, lads. Oh man, honestly, Jesus. You close, Baz? Nope, I moved 5-hour drive away, mate. 4.5-hour drive away. I used to be close. Used to stay in Blairflamenco. But no, I decided to head south. Celtic's got talent. Yeah, that's what it'll need to be, wasn't it? Probably just anybody has a ball at their feet. If John Collins turns up to it, we're completely doomed. Nancy still wanted to play. Would probably work if you had the players to do so. Yeah, it would. And if he'd came in at pre-season and all the rest of it. Anyway, right, that is me done and dusted this morning. Get your name into the hat to pick the new manager. Not a chance. Thank you for everyone who's been on the live this morning. I shall see yous all this evening. And let me just double check this before I go. Get your name into that. Yeah, that's all been fine. I shall see you all this evening. Hopefully there might be some Celtic news. There may not be some Celtic news. Anyway, on that note, have a fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.